Kruger National Park is a vast area, almost as big as Israel, and hard to control. Between 1 and 2 rhinos are killed here every day. Poaching has hit a crisis point. Until 2007, fewer than 50 rhinos per year were poached. Since then, the numbers have exploded. In 2013, over 1,000. The numbers continue to rise. This has led the park authorities to take drastic measures. Rhinos are being relocated from Kruger Park to safer areas, further away from the Mozambican border. There's a ring of private reserves around the park. Like Kruger, Manuletti is being hit hard by poachers. Loet Schultz runs a small bush camp in Manuletti Reserve.
It's escalating on a monthly basis. If you look at the figures, it goes up with 50 to 70% every month, rhino deaths. And we don't seem to get to grips with it. It's a war, and we're losing it. That's the bottom line.
The Manuletti Rangers are constantly on the lookout for poachers. It's not long until we find the remains of a female white rhino.
These were amateurs. They damaged the whole horn, you see there? Where they hacked it here. If you get professionals, they take it off cleanly. Very often what happens is they cut it so deep, it impairs the breathing of the rhino. Then he might still be alive. It impairs the reading, and he smothers to death. Can't breathe anymore. It's a bad thing, man.
The fence is checked for signs of poachers.
You see the poaching spoor there? They went out from here. You see where they put their footsteps there?
The ranger's job has become increasingly dangerous. We are at a spot where the rangers had a firefight with poachers just a couple of weeks ago.
The man could come down so he'll drop front lock and to he'll suk to Kromni to Mako ambush to 5 o'clock.
Okay.
To a man drop him eki so, and a man drop him so. To the man come. And I really stand there, and I really come down so drop the fear so take the fear. To Diane, I get nothing more, it's no me. Diane is a boss from a can here black. I come in the animals, they come down so, I shoot the rhino so. Diane is a boss from so a can that the rhino va blade down. Diane is so.
Our question whether he regrets having killed the poacher seems rather strange to Sam.
Diamond elemos, ele come to the amani so, elemos die dear. That's a dengue mag does too. Come in the anaman, another come anaman, another again die preg diamond. The money come America, a sin die hootes, a fatwa and the shelter so, a macom shelter so, a sin mar Diane.
For these people that do the poaching, the rhino means nothing to them. It gives them no pleasure, it gives them no benefit, it gives them nothing. They just see it, it's just an animal, it's a white man's toy. But if I take that horn from that rhino, I can buy myself a cell phone, I can buy myself a motor car, I can buy some presents for my girlfriend. That's what's important.
Johannesburg investigative journalist Julian Rademeyer has made it his mission to expose illegal trade in rhino horn.
This is the trade in lion bones, where they suddenly begin to see this uptick from 2003 onwards. And all of that seems to be traced back to Vietnam.
One of the reasons for this spike is that South Africa is one of the few countries in the world where you can still get a permit to trophy hunt.
You begin to see Vietnamese names cropping up. Again and again. And initially it's a small blip, and then by 2008, 2009, it really picks up. And by the end of 2009, 2010, the Vietnamese hunters dominate the trade in rhino horn trophies. So you had dozens and eventually hundreds of horns going out from South Africa as trophies, arriving in Vietnam, not being declared to Vietnamese customs and just vanishing. 2 years ago, the Vietnamese government went and did a snap survey of some of the hunters that had shot rhinos in South Africa and taken the trophies out. Very few of them still had the trophies. You know, these were not trophy hunters. These were people coming in under the guise of trophy hunting to try and get as much rhino horn as possible.
After decades of isolation, Vietnam opened its economic doors to the world and has since experienced an unprecedented boom in prosperity and population. It has also become ground zero for the illegal international trade in rhino horn. Rhino horn was traditionally used to treat fever or headaches. Now it is being touted as a miracle cure for fatal diseases.
Theo tôi được biết thì hiện nay vì trong cái thời buổi bệnh ung thư phát triển nhiều, mà theo tin đồn là sừng tê giác có thể điều trị được bệnh ung thư, cho nên là người ta lao vào không sợ tốn tiền để mua sừng tê giác điều trị.
There was a myth that started doing the rounds in Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh City about an army general, it's sometimes said, sometimes a senior politician, sometimes a former prime minister who was cured of cancer by using rhino horn.
Do Hoang is a well-known journalist in Vietnam. He has investigated the illegal trade in rhino horn and says demand and prices are skyrocketing.
Không hẳn là như thế. Có rất nhiều người đi lùng sừng tê giác để cứu mạng sống của mình và người thân của mình với cái giá rất là đắt. Theo như tôi biết thì ở Việt Nam hiện nay giá một cái sừng tê giác khoảng độ 5 đến 60 nghìn đô la. Tức là gấp đến 2-3 lần cái ô tô đang đậu cạnh chúng ta đây. Nhưng mà có một cái số người nữa là họ là những người giàu, họ mua, họ biếu, họ làm quà tặng. Và đặc biệt là họ giữ trong nhà với cái niềm tin rằng nó có thể chữa được bệnh, hoặc nó có thể giải độc sau những cuộc rượu, hoặc nó có thể tốt hơn cho sức khỏe. Và một phần họ muốn thể hiện cái đẳng cấp giàu có của mình.
Hoang promises to try to arrange a meeting with a rhino horn user. Days later, Do Huai, who sells telecommunications devices, agrees to meet us at his house. Huai claims to have inherited the piece from his father. Owning rhino horn is not illegal in Vietnam. Trading it is.
Cái này lừa đảo. Theo tôi biết thì cái này ở Việt Nam bây giờ, tức là tôi không mua bán thường xuyên, nhưng tôi đoán thôi, phán đoán thôi. Một cái này thì chính xác là cái này thì cái này chắc khoảng 3 đến 4 ngàn đô la tùy nha.
Huai admits that he also uses the rhino horn for himself and for friends.
Thông thường là khi mệt mỏi hoặc là trẻ con đau ốm sốt hoặc là người già yếu mệt, mục đích là để giải độc. Khi mà rất là mệt mỏi, khi ở tuổi cao ốm nặng, về tinh thần thì sẽ tỉnh, còn lại về thực tế thì tùy từng người.
Huai's father had cancer. They believe drinking rhino horn prolonged his life.
Này, một lượng như thế này.
Very seriously.
Thì bằng cả y tế hiện đại và bằng cả những cái
So they try their best.
được 1 năm rưỡi.
But numerous studies have proven that rhino has no curative qualities. Essentially, it's the same material as your own fingernails. Keratin.
Phải đi chỗ nào khác chứ.
I want you to do my everything. Yeah.
There has been an international ban on trading rhino horn for the past 30 years, and yet consumers still manage to get a hold of it. We send in an experienced undercover investigator posing as a wealthy Chinese buyer. She heads for Hanoi's Medical Street. Rhino horn used to be sold openly here.
Ngày trước nó dễ mà bây giờ nó khác rồi, bây giờ thì khác, mà nhà chị bây giờ cũng không có nguồn nữa, không có nguồn nữa. Bây giờ nó đắt lắm, cái này nó tương đương với cả như nào, nó tương đương với vàng đấy, nó tương đương vàng.
Succumbing to international pressure, though, authorities have been cracking down on illegal traders, making shopkeepers very wary. The investigator tries another shop. Here she makes some headway. The owner says that he could get a rhino horn from Singapore. Our investigator moves on. Finally, she gets lucky.
When we visit the store, and the store owner say, "Oh, we just have a guy who come in and out quite frequently, bring the stuff to us." So we asked him, "Can you arrange us to meet this person because we want to see if there's availability on rhino horn."
3 days later, she gets a call and arranges to meet back at his shop. She is asked to wait outside. Obviously, she's being checked out.
We arrived and this dealer guy came over to the store. We meet in the back of the store and he told us how they change the color so they can get past the custom and can bring it into the country.
Making the horn look like wood is a common trick used by smugglers. The weight of both pieces is nearly 500 grams. That's worth approximately $25,000. The dealer believes our investigator is a serious buyer, so he fetches a catalog full of illegal wildlife products worth millions of dollars.
I think he's part of the big network, and all these things are very expensive at this moment in the market. And he took such a great risk. So he played quite important role in this group, and I think the group has access to smuggling directly from both Asia and Africa.
At $50,000 per kilo, it would seem to be a commodity only for the super rich. However, according to our undercover investigator, that is not so. She was told this story by a shop owner whose mother was interested in selling a small piece of rhino horn she had acquired.
She just say her mother be invited to this party. Everyone put in like $2,000, and when there is a rhino horn available, and they were inviting everyone to the party. So in front of everybody's very eyes, and they cut the rhino horn to pieces to give it to everyone.
These buying parties are providing much more affordable prices and thus wider access to the illegal trade. Poaching has spread all over Africa. Despite thousands of poachers having been killed, the profits keep luring them in. In this area of northern Kenya, constant patrols are made by this special ranger anti-poaching unit. This remote area is traditionally troubled by tribal conflict, drought, and poaching. The border with Somalia is not far away. One of these rangers used to be a poacher himself. 2 years ago, Lotok changed sides. He claims to have killed 150 elephants.
Ilikuwa ni kukutana tu, ni kupanga tukutane mahali fulani. Tunakutana kwa kichaka kwa sababu ni kitu ilikuwa ni asiri, hata ndugu yako hawasijua, hata majirani, hata bibi yako hawasijua.
Lotok used to be the leader of the group. His job was to shoot the elephant. The others had to remove the tusks.
Kaona ile sikiki ambaye, lakini hapo mbele nilikuwa naua bara tu ni ndofu, hata nikikuta kama kuna kilo mbili sikujua kwamba ina maana. Lakini nilipofanya nikaelewa, nilikuja ikawa ninatafuta ile dume. Na ile kike wakati dume inakosekana, nachukua ile kike ambaye ni msee, ambaye naweza ona kama kuna kilo. Nilikuja ikafika kilo kama 15,000, lakini nilikuja hapa nilianza kama 1,000, 2,000.
15,000 Kenyan shilling is about $160 for a kilo of ivory. Since Lotok dropped out, that price has gone up to $500. The value of a single tusk is worth 10 times the average annual income in some African countries.
So long as the price of ivory continues to rise, then the incentive for those people in rural areas to poach elephants will remain high.
Poachers like Lotok don't have to search long for buyers. Thanks to globalization and investments in roads and infrastructure by foreign nationals, once isolated regions in Africa become easily accessible.
We see Chinese people in Africa who come over for construction work, working on roads and buildings and bridges, and they go back to China with just one tusk, 3 kilos. And in Africa, it might cost them $100. And they know that when they get to China, it's already worth, $6,000. And if they hang on to that tusk for another 2 years, it could be worth $12,000.
The highway between Nairobi and Mombasa is one of the major arteries of Eastern Africa. It is a well-known route for trafficking networks shifting contraband into this busy port. Numerous studies indicate that poachers rarely operate on their own anymore. Organized crime, attracted by the huge profit margins in wildlife trafficking, has taken over. About 2,500 containers are being shipped in and out of here each day to destinations all over the world. Many contain illegal wildlife products. In Kenyan ports like Mombasa, large shipments totaling nearly 10 tons of ivory were confiscated last year alone. But the confiscated ivory is only the tip of the iceberg. Interpol estimates the actual amount of smuggled ivory to be 10 times higher. More than half of all seized ivory loads were destined for China. China's 1.3 billion citizens have experienced an unequaled economic rise in the last decade. Guangzhou is the boomtown of China. The city of 12 million has the country's highest per capita number of millionaires and multimillionaires. Guangzhou has a long tradition of trading ivory. Today, the demand comes from the newly rich who want to show off their wealth. After the global economic crisis in 2008, many rich Chinese decided to invest heavily in more traditional things like artwork and wildlife products. Ivory and rhino horn have become popular investment instruments. After months of investigation, we finally meet one of the buyers.
Maybe
Frank An curates the art collection of one of the new rich in Chinese society. He likes to spend it on beautiful things.
It's the old ivory. It's done in Beijing from the master. The lotus is a kind of symbol in the Buddhism because it grows up from the mud under the water. But when it comes out, it's very clean. It's very purified. Mm-hmm.
This collection is worth millions of dollars.
It's the rhino's horn. Yeah, like this.
You drink it? Oh, okay.
Like this. It's for drinking.
Uh-huh.
The head of the tribes, we need to show off to other competitors. I'm powerful. Yeah. Why people want to marry a beautiful woman, but not an ugly girl? It's a trophy also. People always kill those dangerous animals. They never feel proud to kill a chicken. We are very lucky. Our ancestors wins in the long trip. If you win, you take everything. So we have the right to do something unfair to the animals.
Mr. An's views may be offensive to many, but he's acting perfectly legally. The Chinese government controls the legal trade in ivory from stockpiles it owns. All ivory products should come with an ID card confirming the legal origin. The government also runs and supplies the commercial carving industry. 37 industrialized carving factories share the 5 tons dispersed by the authorities each year. 78-year-old Pan Shuyu is the master carver at Daijin factory.
这个颜色比较柔和，叫莹润，莹润，看起来好看。其他原料没那么好看。 我自己感觉就是这样。
He's worried that ivory will be completely banned.
所以呢，如果你这个象牙万一真的禁止的话呢，对那个工艺品呢就没好处，就这么长时间积淀下来的技术就没有了，就没有了那个成全了，啊，所以就感到可惜了。
In fact, there was a prohibition of ivory products 25 years ago. In 1989, after a dramatic rise in poaching, all international trade in ivory was banned. The effect was striking.
When the ivory trade was banned, the price of ivory collapsed from about $200 per kilogram down to, I don't know, about $50 per kilogram. And poaching more or less disappeared all across Africa.
Elephant populations immediately recovered. But then Japan and later China were granted singular purchases of ivory from the stockpiles of several African countries. 150 tons of ivory flooded onto the market. The appetite for ivory was revived, and the carving industry flourished again. But this time it was different.
In the old days, it would take several masters a few years to carve one elaborate carving. But today, in the carving factories, it's dental drills. People use dental drills. This type of industrialization of ivory carving, this is what's going to kill elephants.
Carving factories claim that all of their ivory is legal. But if the government only supplies 5 tons a year, the numbers just don't add up.
If it's equally distributed among 37 carving factories, each carving factory gets a couple hundred kilograms. And if you look at the size and the scale, how many people working in the carving factory, you'll figure out that, how much this carving factory had to use illegal ivory.
Again, we rig our investigator with a hidden camera and send her out to speak with carvers to find out where they're getting their ivory. Her target area is a mall in Guangzhou, well known for its ivory retailers. As cover, the investigator tells the shop owners that she has a piece she'd like to have carved. Finally, the carver agrees to see her at his home. The carver has learned his craft from a master carver in Hong Kong. Now he has 20 apprentices in his workshop. His business is approved by the government. The investigator manages to win his trust. He is proud of his craft and frankly admits that he specializes in making fake antiques.
但是我们的东西呢，就是给别人做旧的，就是做，因为我们没有古董的嘛，都是现代的东西。古完成的，基本上9个里面就有8个半是假的。
The carver also says that controls on these products are tight, but he knows people in Fujian province who traffic illegal ivory and rhino horn.
对，都是走私嘛，都是偷渡弄进来的嘛，放在那个木材里面啊，或者他们有他们的办法的嘛，有时候也会被查到啊，被压掉。
Our investigator also asks about carved rhino horn.
犀角的量呢，就投资的话，这个是肯定是涨价。我们一路做过来，我们做的东西全部在涨价，没有跌价。
It is estimated that 90% of ivory trade in China is illegal. The legal trade, however, provides the perfect cover.
So currently China allows 5 tons of ivory to be sold legally every year. The government's estimate for the demand is 200 tons a year. So this isn't meeting the supply, it's not meeting that demand, but what it's doing is it's giving the public a very confused message. Nobody knows what's legal, nobody knows what's illegal. And the big thing we found previously was that the traders use the legal trade to launder illegal ivory.
The forestry police are charged with the increasingly impossible task of controlling the illegal market. We have the rare opportunity to film a raid with them. This is a market in Beijing. Many wildlife products are sold and bought here, but it is small pickings by any standard of the illegal trade. This dealer tries to explain his products are carved from mammoth, not ivory. But the officers don't believe him. The dealer shows his ID cards to the police officers. They confiscate his goods and take him in for further questioning. But he was telling the truth. He was later released. This woman also claimed to sell mammoth ivory, but the texture of the material tells the officer otherwise.
It also makes it very difficult to enforce. Forestry police and customs officers sometimes complain that this system makes it very difficult for them to distinguish what's illegal and what's legal.
This small shopkeeper was later charged with selling illegal ivory and now faces 5 to 10 years in jail. The overwhelming amount of carved ivory for sale in shops or markets, whether illegal or not, is still only a fraction of the vast amount of raw ivory estimated to reach China week after week.
If literally tens and tens of tons of ivory is reaching China, where is it going? Those tusks are going somewhere in either China or neighboring countries, and they're just sitting there. And they're waiting for the time when they will be worth literally a fortune.
Where it's going is to people that are investing in the extinction of Africa's elephants. And they think that's a very smart investment because they believe there'll never be any more elephants or any more rhinos than there are now, which will mean their investments will increase in value.
The grim reality is that elephants and rhinos are trapped in a deadly spiral driven by the merciless laws of the free market. Wildlife trade has become big business for organized crime. Only they can provide the money and logistics to shift hundreds and thousands of tons of contraband around the globe.
Some of the networks that exist are highly specialized, but there are, existing, well-established, long-established criminal networks and groups that simply turn to particular activity because it is profitable.
In fact, after the trade in drugs and weapons, wildlife trafficking has become the most lucrative black market business. It's estimated to be worth $20 billion annually.
Wildlife crime is the attractive one because the risks of getting caught are pretty small. And then if you do get caught, then in many countries of the world, the penalty is going to be small, but the profits, depending on what you're dealing in, you're going to get more from them than you are smuggling cocaine or heroin.